Let's talk some Orioles. Let's talk some baseball in general. As I mentioned, you know this man from John Boy and Baseball Today with Trevor Plouffe. You also know him from like literally every channel that has been on your cable package in his life. He is a friend of ours, phenomenal broadcaster, Mr. Chris Rose, back with us now here on GCR. Chris, it's Glenn. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Wow, I sound like I need to do some cheering up, guys. Are we
Dude,
all right?
the Orioles had 3 hits, and the only one after the first
Yeah.
inning was an infield hit in the ninth. I mean, it was just it's one thing to watch a baseball game and the team struggles. It's another thing to be up at 11 o'clock. Although, give them credit, it was over quickly. They didn't keep us up that late. It was just a
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. I always forget about that for you guys on the East Coast. What it's
yeah.
like. For me, it's like last night. There was only one game after like 9:30.
Right.
It was still on my screen. I'm watching A's Pirates. I'm like, God Almighty, I'm a sicko.
Oh God,
Guys, your team is
not
offensively
good.
one of the great. Yeah, it's just one of the great mysteries in the sport because you look at the lineup, you're like, yeah, it feels like at worst it should be top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it feels like, particularly with the addition of Pete Alonso and Taylor Ward. I thought that with that right-handed pop, it was going to make a huge difference, and it just hasn't. I mean, the fact that Ward's OPS is in the mid-700s and the guy's got 3 homers. It was mid-700s like 2 years ago, and he had 25 homers.
Yeah.
It's head-scratching.
It's head-scratching. The Gunnar Henderson thing, I think, Chris, is maybe the most head-scratching of all of it because I think the most simple way of explaining it is he's clearly trying to chase power, and slug, and he says, that's not the case. But it's almost more if that's not the case, it's more perplexing to me because Gunnar Henderson's supposed to be a baseball player. Like he's the guy that coming up, everybody said this is going to be a batting champion at some point, and I get it. We don't. Like somebody's going to win a batting title at 260 at some point in the next couple of years, so I don't even know if we're going to have a batting champion. But like that part of it is it's so confounding on the heels of like the 2 years where Adley Rutschman was confounding, and now he finally figures it out. It is really hard to figure out what's happening to guys that get here are really good and then just look lost, and how to explain it within this organization.
Well, when you guys got to the 100-win season and then followed that up with another playoff appearance, your young talent was the envy of the sport. Right? And we were sitting there saying, okay, Mike Elias all he has to do is figure out which 3 or 4, or even 2 or 3 if you wanted to go that route, guys that are totally untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
Like you knew Gunnar was at the top of that list. Did you want to make Jackson Holliday near the top of that list? Rutschman had already had some all-star seasons. But which guys were you willing to move on from? Was it going to be a Jordan Westberg? Was it going to be Kobe Mayo? Who, eventually it was Stowers, who turned into an all-star down in Miami. And obviously they just gave up a ton of talent to get Shane Baz, and we'll see how that plays out on the other side of this. But it just feels like, man, this was a team that was running 1,000 miles an hour and literally hit a brick wall. And I think we're going to look back on this short stint of Orioles baseball and wonder why it wasn't significantly better. And I think a lot of us don't have answers because if your team could get your hands still on a bunch of these guys, you'd feel like, heck yeah, I'd take them in a trade.
100%.
And for whatever reason, it just doesn't work with this team. I don't know if it's bad juju or what it is.
I have theories, and they're theories that I feel like we're going to go through whenever it's over. Like whenever maybe at some point if the Orioles do move on from Mike Elias, and I'm not trying to suggest that's something they should do today, anything along those lines, but I think we'll all have theories at that point. The one that stands out to me most in the immediacy, Chris, is like they did move on from all of the veterans from that group and maybe put too much of a burden. Like obviously they tried to course correct with Pete Alonso this year and Taylor Ward, but I do think a year ago that really hurt them moving on from, and not that obviously Anthony Santander hasn't even played baseball since that point, but the Santanders, the Hayes, the Mullins, and the next group behind Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman has just not proven fruitful, right? Like Colton Cowser has had a couple of weeks of really good baseball and has otherwise looked lost. I don't know all the answers. What I know is they're in the spot that they're in. And the conversation that's now come up most recently is now should they be looking to maybe move Adley Rutschman at this point as they've committed to Basayo sticking around. Every time that conversation has come up, I've pushed back a little bit because the sense that I've gotten is that they don't believe Samuel Basayo is a full-time catcher and that they always intended for there to be multiple catchers. And that doesn't mean that a Creed Willems or someone in the system couldn't come up and be that guy if they moved on from Rutschman. But it is a really fascinating conversation because he becomes a free agent after next year, and you won't want to have this play out the way that it did with Manny Machado, where you finally sell him as a rental when you're not winning, and you just get pennies on the dollar for a generational baseball player a decade ago. What do you make of the thought process? Because they're not out of it. I mean, as you pointed out, the A's lose last night. They're still 2.5 games out of a playoff spot, right? Like, and we've seen some good baseball, but it is really hard to look at this team and see that they're an actual contender to do something of significance versus, hey, the AL just happens to be mid enough that maybe you can hang around and nab a playoff spot.
Well, I mean, I think Rutschman is the key part of this discussion. Now, if you don't think that Basayo can handle a staff, that's a major issue because then he turns into a DH, which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have my buddy Trevor Plouffe, with whom I co-host Baseball Today, he's got the best label ever for a hitting catcher. He calls it a cheat code because there's so few of them, it feels like. And there are teams that are like, you don't think that the Yankees would love to have a hitting catcher right now? They get virtually nothing out of that position. And I feel like if they get a hitting catcher, that might be the missing piece to upend the Dodgers if that's who they would end up facing in a World Series, let's say. But I think that there's a bunch of teams that could use a guy like him, but that would scare the you-know-what out of me if they don't feel like Basayo can handle a staff. Because then you're getting rid of a switch-hitting catcher who can handle a staff, who gives out great hugs, who seems to have discovered his swing, rediscovered his swing, and then you're giving him up. And that is going to be a hard thing for Orioles fans to swallow. But if you feel comfortable enough, then I would pull the trigger now. I would do it now because with the impending work stoppage, I don't know what that's going to look like. Let's say next year, let's just play it out. Mm-hmm. Let's say they're a month late getting into the season. And instead of 162 games, we're down to 140 games, okay? And now you have even a shorter span of it. Getting rid of Adley Rutschman as a rental, to me, sounds like an unmitigated disaster. So you either got to figure out in the next couple of weeks, I think we've blown past the point of no return for extending him. So it's either you deal with it and you just keep him and let him run out his course here in Baltimore, or you trade him now.
Chris, what you're saying is semi-close to where I am, with the caveat being that if they felt like, hey, we still believe in the core of players that we have and we are committed to, even at the deadline this year, even as we look at this team and don't think very much of it, if they're committed to, but we're going to look for maybe a pitching help that with control that we could have next year. And I know, as you point out, the work stoppage potentially complicates this, but if they are committed to doing what they haven't done the last couple of years, which is we're not just going and getting Chris Bassett, we are going to make sure that we are bringing in legitimate top-of-the-rotation pitchers. Like, if there is an all-in still to be had, then do that. But if their plan is we fundamentally don't agree with spending, $30 million a year on a pitcher, we're not going to be doing that, then I think they know their answer about whether or not they can win a World Series while Adley Rutschman's under control, and they have no choice but, to your point, try to move him right now.
Look, I don't think that you necessarily have to spend $30 million a year on a pitcher.
Yeah,
it helps.
Yeah,
right?
or go the route like with a trade, like spend what it takes to get one of those guys before you. The way that they did, frankly, with Corbin Burns, obviously.
Yeah, but I take a look at one specific instance, and it's what the Atlanta Braves did with Chris Sale. Now, there was a guy who obviously was coming off of several injury-plagued seasons in Boston.
Yeah.
They traded him for Vaughn Grissom, who people felt like was a young, up-and-coming, everyday baseball player and has since moved on to other teams, right? And so that feels like a shooting star, like a once, but that's where you got to get lucky. And that's how the Braves have kind of now built the rest of their rotation. Have they gone out and gotten these huge names? No, they've pretty much banked on decent guys to fill out the rest of their rotation, guys that they have drafted and developed. And I suppose that's the biggest difference between these two organizations. The Braves, you can look at the Braves and say they have a ton of homegrown talent, which they do. They also supplemented it with, obviously, the Matt Olson trade, which was enormous for them. But the Orioles have all this homegrown talent, too. It's just they have whiffed, for the most part, on the pitching side of this.
Significantly whiffed on the pitching side of it. They haven't drafted and developed. They really haven't. I mean, Kyle Bradish is a fair hit, like in a trade, like a fair.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, but
he's fine.
But not an ace. I mean, he's a good pitcher, and in moments, Trevor Rogers has been a good pitcher. But yeah, that's what they've got out of this. That's the reality. Chris Rose is with us here on GCR. Other than that, by the way, the play, I think Mrs. Lincoln really enjoyed the play. We were having this super pleasant conversation this morning, Chris. Is there any part of you that looks at this and says, this could all feel silly? There is still a lot of talent here. We could wake up before August 3rd, and the Orioles could have gone on some sort of tear, and they could have won, I don't know, 20 out of 30, something like that. Is there some world where you still, or have you just seen way too much of this to believe that that's possible?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, can they make the playoffs? They absolutely could. I mean, the injury to Jose Ramirez is probably going to slide Cleveland down a bit, and they currently hold a wild card spot. I just don't think much of anybody outside of Seattle in the West to feel like there can't be wild card spots to be had. I thought that Detroit and Kansas City were both going to eat up playoff spots, and it looks like neither of those are going to happen. So if the goal is to make the playoffs and take your swings in a 3-game series when you're on the road with that pitching staff, it's not ideal, but it could win. I mean, it could be fine. Now, the question is, to me, I feel like the Yankees are just significantly better than anybody else, and that includes Tampa Bay. I do think the one team to watch in the second half is Seattle. They're going to do this freakish piggyback thing with their starting rotation till the All-Star break, and then I'll see what their game plan is on the backside of July. I don't think Houston's pitching is good enough, even with the return of Hunter Brown now, to keep them involved in this thing. Texas is way too inconsistent, and you can't rely on Corey Seager to kind of be the linchpin of their offense moving forward. The White Sox have been a tremendous story. I'm not even so sure I wouldn't make them the favorite in the second half to win that division, but anybody else, I mean, come on, the Minnesota Twins bullpen is atrocious. And then we know what's gone on in the rest of the American League East. Toronto's been an unmitigated disaster for much of the season. Boston can't win anything at home. And Tampa Bay is a really good team. Very, very good team. I can't put them on par with the Yankees, but they're a very, very good team, in my opinion. So, yes, Baltimore can make the playoffs, but I don't know.
I think for me it's more of a context thing. Is there any world where you could justify that there? Because I agree with what you're saying, Chris, but as I think you and I probably agree, sneaking into the playoffs is not where the 2026 Orioles should be, and even if they do, as constructed, there's no world where you believe that they can make a deep playoff run and compete to win a World Series. So I'm really trying to figure out, is there a world where you can even justify going the other way and saying, hey, let's go be bold at the deadline and let's attack the top of the pitching market.
Okay. So are you saying, like, do you want to go try and add a full-on rental like a Freddie Peralta?
Yeah,
or are you saying
I think uniquely they would have to try to find somebody with control, and that's
okay.
You know, like, I don't think they have an option but to try to find that, and I don't even know who that is, because I know that it's been hypothesized maybe the Giants would be willing to listen on Logan Webb, but, like, why? Why would they be willing to listen on Logan Webb? And what would that possibly cost to try to pry away Logan Webb? So I don't even know who that guy is that you would be acquiring that would have control.
Yep.
There we go. There we go.
I mean, we've identified the problems,
yeah.
And Mike Elias, go get him, pal.
Yep.
Here's what Orioles fans have to answer for themselves. Would they be satisfied with making the playoffs in a crappy year for the American League, losing in the first round, or even, let's say, winning and being one of the final four in the American League, and let's say losing to the Yankees or the Mariners in round two? The thing is, you have to be – I think the hardest thing to do in sports is self-evaluate, because I think a lot of the Orioles brass would say, hey, we had a good season. We want to win the whole thing, but we made it to the final four of the American League, and we were one of the last 8 teams standing. And you know that you could convince yourself that you had a good season, when in actuality, the whole league stunk. So I think you have to be willing to do a deep dive on where you are organizationally. Are you just happy enough getting into the playoffs and taking a roll of the dice there? Or do you really want to try and build something substantial to the point where you feel like teams are gunning for you instead of you gunning for them? And I think that the Orioles know the answer. They just might not want to say it out loud.
Well, and I think the second part of that answer is Mike Elias involved with that, right? Like, and I get that that's the baseball works now, that, like, the leaders of the front office have all the power, but if that's the direction that you're going, how do you justify that you know that Mike Elias is capable of being that guy if you're kind of abandoning everything that he's built over the course of the last 7 years?
Good luck with that. That's all I can say.
Fun conversation, Chris. Super fun. Well, I know you guys were talking about it on baseball today. What did you make of everything that happened between the Orioles and the Padres this weekend? I am so exhausted. I hate trying to have these conversations with baseball players, because there's just a part of me that wants to say, do you hear yourself? Like, this exhausts me. But what did you make of it? And there's been a lot of pushback in Baltimore about Craig Albernaz coming out and saying, yeah, the Padres did it the right way. Like, really? Like, really, dude? You're going to defend your supposed to be best player getting thrown at? Like, that was a really awkward look.
I didn't love that. I wouldn't have liked it at all. We did talk about it. I hate it. Look, the pitch got away that hit Bogaerts.
Yes.
I know that they had come up and in. I believe it was Machado earlier in the game. Okay, I get it. It's not fun to have the ball thrown at your head. You can talk to any major leaguer. It's not a thing they look forward to. They understand that pitches do get away. When Rodriguez missed Gunnar twice in the 7th inning, like, okay, you missed him. You blew it. Like, go explain to your teammates why you can't hit a guy. I mean, really? You can paint the outside corner, but you can't hit a dude? You had plenty of spots. And then 2 outs in the 9th? Stupid. It just looks stupid. And then I didn't like what Craig said. Your job is to protect your guys.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that has not happened the last several weeks. I'm okay with him not being on the same page with Basayo. I think that you have those discussions behind closed doors, particularly with a young player, right? I mean, these are separate topics, I know, but I think it all gets rolled into one when things are not going well, and that these are the things that become national talking points.
They do, 100%. They do, and leaves you sort of scratching your head about what's going on there. Chris, what can we plug for you, man?
Well, every day we got the Baseball Today podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcast, and our YouTube baseball channel, which is Jam Baseball. Really fun stuff all over the place there. I also do my weekly interview show, Dugout Discussions. Brian Wu of the Mariners is the latest guest. Hopefully going to be getting somebody from the Orioles while they're out here on their West Coast swing through L.A. and Anaheim over the next week, starting this weekend. So you can look for that. And be back on NFL coming up once we get to the NFL season, which is not too far away.
We look forward. We know we'll be talking again before then. Chris, always appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking the time for us. Hopefully the next one is a little bit more pleasant. Appreciate you doing it.
That's all right. I'm sure it will be. All right. Take care, guys.